Hi, my name is Ibrahim. I'm the founder and executive director of Kids in Tech. Kids in Tech is a low-based nonprofit that provides after-school programming in STEM for young kids. We do that through our flagship program, which is called After School Tech Club, where we partner up with schools and we have volunteers and trained educators go into a school and provide activities in anything from typing to coding to web design for kids ages 8 to 14. The hope for our program is that kids start to see themselves in STEM, increase their STEM confidence, and hopefully they persist in high school by taking the necessary math and science classes that we know will lead them to a trajectory in the STEM fields. Thanks so much for having me today, Jodi.
Oh, you're so welcome. So look at that. See, just so everyone knows, we did do this twice because she just went right into saying her name. I go in her company name, and that was it. I'm like, no. We need to know what you do, which of course I have so many questions because my dad would have loved you because he tried to get me into science and math. And when I was younger, I was so loving it. And then I don't know, I just got out of it. It just disappeared. So we're gonna have to talk about how there's so many young girls that start into it and then it just disappears. So that will be later on in the conversation. But we got to start with, obviously, your name is not Mary, it's not Sally, it's not Joan. So you are not, you don't have a traditional name. So we want to hear about little Ulu. Where do you come from? Where did you get your name? Where does your name stem from? And I want to know about you between now, like little you till, let's just say, college.
Great. So I was born in the US to Nigerian parents. So my name is Nigerian, specifically from the Yoruba tribe. I spent most of my formative years in Wisconsin, growing up in a cramped apartment with my sisters and I. My dad was working on his PhD. I think he was the only Black male to get his PhD the year he graduated in biophysics. And my mom was a nurse. She was, training to be an RN. So I saw the trajectory of how science and math careers change our life, because once they got their degrees, we moved into our first family home and we started getting all these opportunities I didn't have before. So I know the power of education, the power of STEM, because I saw with my own parents and how they created a life for us that my sisters and I benefit from to this day. In terms of Kids in Tech and how I got really interested in science and math and all the good things.
Oh, no. See, did you see how you just did that? You went from your parents to then work. I'm like, there's so much that happened in between. College, how many siblings you have?
Yeah, so my interest in my early experiences with STEM is really my dad brought home a first family computer.
Oh, okay.
In that
wait, the green screen. All right, so I'm showing my age. I had in let's see, junior high school, we had the green screen. So did you have a computer like something like now, or because again, showing my age, I had a green screen.
Yeah, it was the early 90s. So I'm an 80s baby, but it was the early 90s, late 80s baby. But yes, so my dad brought home this computer because he had to use it to code. Part of his dissertation was using coding and all this stuff. So he bought home a computer and we fixed it with him, and then he was able to do his work at home. And then when my dad wasn't using the computer, my sisters and I would fight over it and be like, no, I want to code. No, I want to type. Right. And so, no, I'm going to practice my design skills on this computer. Mm-hmm. So that's what my foray got into, really interested in science and technology. And plus my parents were already in the sciences, so they were constantly talking about it. They were really good at gardening is math. And do you see how all this stuff relates? Like my parents were very much like that, even though they were low income kids themselves and grew up in Nigerian poverty. Like they just kind of were my first mentors because they were just really good at always connecting everything for us. So fast forward, we moved into our first family home, high school. I went to a public high school for 2 years and then ended up going to a boarding school for 2 years because we found out about that opportunity through a family friend. But in that high school, I remember doing a lot of science and technology, and that was really helpful because I liked it, but I also really loved learning French and all these other things. So I say that to say that STEM, creating a diverse pipeline, which I hope happens in 10 years, we can start with kids in tech as creating a positive early experiences for young kids, and then partner up with other organizations along the pipeline who do more advanced work for kids. But the thing is, I think we can solve the diversity problem by giving kids a clear pathway to economic mobility. And that's what step
I'm going to keep, I will continue to stop you only because I just want to get a little bit more detailed. You were saying how, so I brought this up earlier, and I'm actually going to intertwine this right now. When I was younger, so I'm first generation born from Haiti, and science and math. So, I mean, it's being a medical lawyer, medical law or engineer were the three fields that we were only allowed to be. If they were coming to America, these are the three fields that they wanted us to be in. I'm none of those things, but I'm very intrigued by medical. And so when you were thinking about, when you were being told medical, the garden and things like that could be intertwined into technology coding, how were they doing that? Because I'm just interested overall in those fields. And when I was younger, I've always been, I'm a tactile learner. So you have young girls that are wanting to get in. They're trying to understand how do they interrelate. And then once they get into school, they're like, oh, well, I want to be popular. Oh, I want the boys to like me. I don't want to look that much smarter. So how did your parents keep you focused and interested after? Like inside the house is one thing, because like we were in the Haitian bubble. So in the Haitian bubble, we love to learn. When we got outside the bubble and we're in school in America, it was a whole different thing. So how did they keep you so latched on where you really wanted to stay on to understand and love technology? Because that's the biggest obstacle that parents have right now.
Yeah, I think I had friends who were also very curious about that. I think as a young kid, I just gravitated towards friends who had like-minded interests. I wouldn't say like every teacher was good at teaching math, but I think I had really good friends who, peer pressure, like good peer pressure, where it's like, okay, you like this, I like this too, right? And just sticking to your guns. As a kid, I think that's how I stayed interested, is having friends who were also interested or knew that, they needed to perform well in school, because you didn't want to go home and hear your parents just down your throats. I think it's peer pressure for yourself, right? Taking pride in yourself and your education, because okay, this is a way out of poverty. And I also don't want to embarrass my parents, but I also have friends who like-minded, whether their parents are immigrants or not, they just have the same mentality. So you gravitate towards those kids that keep you on track. And then and then you just and then you have your parents where you're like, I'm not bringing home anything less than, an A. So then all those peer pressures, kind of good peer pressures, I would say, kind of keep you on that right track, right? So I think environment plays a big role. So that's why when I talk about our after school tech club, it's really important for me to find really good instructors, because teacher quality matters a lot. Along with, the kids can peer pressure each other, but teacher quality really matters. And I can't say I saw that all the time when I was growing up, but I think in high school, it started to change a lot more for me. So
Is that when you're in boarding school?
Yeah. So 2 years in public high school, 2 years in public college. It was just like stark difference. But
in what way?
Smaller class sizes. The teachers were subject matter experts. Like they just had years of teaching under the belt, and they were really passionate about what they were teaching. And I can't always say that happened. I think in the public high school, I think there was like one or two teachers I can remember who were really, really passionate about teaching. And teaching is a hard job. So, but still, if you're not excited, how can I get excited? You know what I mean? So that's the stark difference. At least that was my lived experience. So for me, when we were designing the tech club, it was really important to have really good teachers or really good instructors, or people who loved learning and who loved teaching people. Those two, you have to be a good teacher, you have to be a good learner at the same time, because kids can see through that. And then we wanted to also have a different type of teacher, which is like corporate volunteers or retired folks who were scientists, engineers, doctors, to co-lead our club. So the kids had the teachers of best of both worlds, right? People who understand the classroom or understand the after school setting, and then folks who apply these skills every day, helping them with their projects.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Were you, so is this, I mean, you were starting, but then you kind of like veered away from it, where Was this the experience that you got when you were in boarding school? Because you said it was a stark difference. So the smaller, I'm assuming, was at the boarding school when you were in high school, correct? Or were they classes larger?
Well, we didn't have after school tech club in boarding school. I think we had different types of well, I don't remember having a tech club. Maybe there was a science club. I remember more of a science club. I don't remember if there was actual tech club, but for me, I like there was lots of different extracurricular activity. Yes, like band, art, and if you wanted to practice your French more, like there was
And
a
how
lot.
did you not lose it? Because I mean, at this point, I would just assume that you would have. I mean, you're at home, but is it? I'm sorry. Was it boarding, as in you stay at boarding, or boarding day school?
Boarding as I stayed on
You
campus.
so you stayed on campus. So now you're there for 2 years. You were seeing it every single day in your home. So how did you not lose it? Because I mean, most people, like, the rule of thumb, if you don't use it, you lose it.
I don't know. I'm just a naturally curious person, and I don't know. The world just makes sense to me when we think about science, right? Everything just makes sense to me. I'm like, oh, okay, math. I just see it everywhere. Even I guess we shouldn't even call it STEAM. We should call it STEAM, excuse me, not STEM, because even the arts, I just kind of,
Oh yeah.
yeah, everything that like, I guess that's how my brain works. It's just like everything's interconnected. Like it just, yeah, that's how my brain has always been. I don't know. Maybe my parents influenced that too. That's a good question. I don't know, but I'm just a curious person. I'm always fascinated about what's going on in the world around me and how things work and why, and like, how did we engineer that? And why does nature act like that? Like I was one of those kids who were always asking like why, or like trying to examine like, just phenomenons around the world. Like, I don't know, I guess that's just my mentality. So I think that's why I've always been very curious. And science and technology, like those are how we create new problems to a lot of the biggest challenges we see in the world. So it's always for me as a child, I'm always like, wow, if there's an outbreak of a disease, it's the scientists and technologists working together and like working together to create new solutions, right? If even with the COVID-19, it was just really fascinating about how all these folks work together to create a vaccine that's saving lives, So I guess that's what it is. I don't know. I'm just naturally very curious.
No, well, I think it's great the way that you're describing it, because so I'm the same way, but I am not a tech person. I'm not into the sciences. I am curious. Being first generation born, I learned how to speak English when I was 8 years old. It's the stories around me help me learn the language, but I'm curious in regards of how the people react. So the marketing for me and the way the people react to situations. So just right now, when you were saying how people come together to create this vaccination, well, for me, I'm looking at how are these, I mean, for the first time ever, we had all these scientists from all over the world collaborating. And for me, that was a fascinating part, not the science part of it. So I love how we both see that curiosity. We want to see how it's solved, but it's like the way that we're seeing it in two different aspects of how at the end of the day, how are we getting this vaccination? Like how is this how's this garden growing? How is your dad coding and creating, like in this, he has this computer and he's learning, he's teaching himself, correct? And then he's teaching you guys?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And then some of it was like trial and error, right? For ourselves. We're like, oh, is that how you type properly on the computer? Oh, is that how you save a document, right? So part of it was trial and error. I think you have to give kids space to fail. I think oftentimes kids, at least like me, I think we feel like we can't fail. And that's another thing that's embedded in our tech club is I want young kids to say, okay, I'm learning. I'm not feeling, I'm learning something new. Because I think that's very important to kids' self-confidence is that they can make I don't even like the word mistake, but they can fail, make a mistake and view it as, okay, I now know how to solve the problem because I figured out what went wrong. And that's the mentality we need to have and not punish kids for not knowing.
Well, yeah, it's just like the feeling of I can't do this, I must be dumb. I am like I've done this 2 or 3 times, although it's getting better. Look at all the other classmates. They're doing it faster, they're doing it better, they're succeeding. And so yes, when you sit there and say that feeling and the feels, it can destroy someone because so many times kids walk away. So many times adults walk away, and think about those amazing things that could have come out of that. Just one more time, just give it one more time and just see the success. So that way it uplifts you.
Absolutely. And so and like in the workplace, that's what you're constantly doing. And I know you talked about yourself being a communicator. You communicate what you see on the ground, but I also think we need communicators to tell people, the general public, about science in a way that's digestible and easy to understand, because oftentimes science, technology, engineering concepts are very esoteric to people. And I think when you walk us outside, you see the concepts and principles everywhere. It's just taking those communication pieces and also like saying it in a very simple way we also need communicators like yourself. So I know you're like, I don't know.
Well, no, you don't.
But we need communicators to like say.
Yes, but we need you. All right, so this is where we're gonna I go. Yeah, we need you. No, I need you.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on.
No, you know what? Because I don't know if you remember the TV show Numbers. He would sit there and be on a case, and all these numbers would come, and I'm like, that is the most amazing way to think. I think in pictures, and I go in different languages, and I was like, holy crap, could you imagine if you could just like solve something by just knowing the numbers? I go, so yes, your brain fascinates me. Like, just like you thinking, like, I mean, I don't know if my brain fascinates you, but your brain definitely fascinates me. So we're gonna hold on to that one. What was your major in college, and what was your goal once you what was the school that you went to? What was your goal when you went there?
Yeah, I ended up going to Clark University in Worcester. I loved Clark a lot. It was a liberal arts school. So part of my story is, even though I love science and technology, I just wanted the world to be a better place. I know maybe that sounds idealistic, but for me, my hearts of hearts, I'm like, the world, we just need to leave the world better than we found it. So for me, is like what changed my life was education. So I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna learn about policy. I'm going to learn about business, and I'm going to learn and take a lot of education classes. So I ended up minoring in entrepreneurship and business, because I was always very fascinated about the role that entrepreneurship plays in solving problems. And then I really wanted to understand like history and policy and how that impacts different systems. So I ended up being an international relations and government major, just because I wanted to understand all these systems. And I also thought that there was a way for entrepreneurship to solve these problems too. So it was like, yeah, it was I veered off completely, not from science technology, but I thought these are ways I can these are systematic ways that can make a difference. So then after that, I went to go get my master's degree in education, and then worked as a teacher, just because I really thought that I was really grateful for a lot of opportunities I had as a young child. And some of them were lucky breaks, but some of them were just people just really investing in me. So I was like, okay, I want to be a teacher. So I did that. Did middle school teacher, was really fun. I loved working with kids. I realized that I wanted to get into policy after that, just because I saw a lot of things at the school level in terms of education policy that I was like, oh, this probably be better of like me being in the policy realm, so I could really understand how I know, because I'm an educator, how these policies impact teachers. So maybe I can make a difference there on a systems level. Worked, doing policy work and on the state government level. And it was a little too slow for me, but I learned a lot. I learned about how policy really happens, why certain bills pass faster than others, what the process looks like. So I have a lot of respect for advocates, people who do that year in and year out, focused on one agenda to get policy in place to impact lives for people. So then I managed nonprofit programs for different nonprofits. And I love that combination of all my skills there, a little bit of policy, a little bit of advocacy, a little teaching. I loved it. Business skills, entrepreneurship skills, trying to figure things out on the fly. And then
wait, before the and then I find it. I mean, I swear to God, you might as well just be my twin, because so I was a second grade and sixth grade teacher. So what grade did you teach?
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade. What did you like about your sixth graders?
It was a very awkward. I like the fact that they didn't have any filter. Actually, it was good. I actually understood it. Like it helped me understand like their brains and like just. I mean, not that I always. I mean, at that age, I also had like developed my empathy skills because I was like, you know what? When I was at that age, I thought that. Hold it against them, but it was like but it was a good reminder, right? That they were very curious. They're going through all these like hormonal different, just like they're about their way in the world too. It was very interesting being on that journey and like them asking for advice sometimes. And I'd be like, what did when I was at that age, that probably would have been my answer. But this is like coming from somebody who's a little bit older. No, you don't want to do that. No, you don't want to say that. So it was cool. I was learning from them and they were learning from me in many ways. So yeah, that's what I liked about the sixth graders. They're very curious.
I love that is that middle, the 6, 7, 8, they are right in the middle. And you're right. You're like, who am I? How am I trying to figure out what is my offering to the world? Let's just test out if I can use some words here and there. I heard someone say this, or I heard an adult say this, or I watched this on news. Let's test out the words coming out of my mouth. So it's amazing to see how they've gone from the elementary being young. They're not at the high school, but they're just like, I'm still figuring it out. And yes, those hormones. Oh, damn, those hormones. Throw those, like, just like so much going on with those. Like, that's the age where everyone's like, oh, I wouldn't wish to be young. I'm like, no, that's the age I wouldn't wish upon because there's so much going on mentally, physically. Like, I'm surprised you can get up in the morning just because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
So then you go to government.
Yeah, I like that. It was fun. It was a lot of.
Wait, so what was your role?
I was just helping with constituents and then also focused on education policy work.
I'm so sorry. I should have asked who did you work for? That's what I should have asked. I'm sorry.
So I worked for a state rep for a little bit, and I was just helping him for education policy pieces and just constituent services. So that was cool. What I really liked about that was just like research. So again, I was a nerd, but all this stuff kind of helps because you're like, okay, I'm curious about how laws are made. So like you read a lot of stuff and you're like, oh, this would be a good education policy initiative we should back. And then you'd have advocates come in. So it was like very easy to talk to the education advocates or education and people who were in the tangential fields to education. It was really easy to talk to them because I already kind of had that experience as a teacher. So I was like, yes, I get where you're coming from. Okay, like this makes sense. This is probably where you should tweak it, in my opinion, based on the climate. So it was cool. I was using all my skills that I have learned along the way.
So I was Governor Romney's press secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for me the most, being from Haiti, politics and I we're not a fan. You're just not a fan coming from Haiti because it's like, it's a hot mess on a good day. And so I took poli-sci classes and poli-sci classes never, ever prepared me for what I experienced in real time. So did you take poli-sci classes and what was your experience now being inside? You're inside, you're helping those decisions being made and you're trying to fight them with, I shouldn't say fight, but you're arguing it with the constituents, which of course, the second you said constituents, I'm like, she worked in politics because no one uses that word other than if you're inside. So what was your whole entire concept of now you are advocating?
I wasn't really fighting. Well, constituents, very right. Never mind. But like, I should say everyday folks. Okay. I still thought it was useful though, because you understand, like, you got to see stuff play out in real time. Like the theories I thought was very useful because whether people like knew the right political theory or not, like the way that they moved and acted, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of that one, like theory, like, oh, I kind of see that happening right now. Like, so it's just like useful, like, those random, when you go to like a random trivia night and they're like, this random question, like, I know it. They're like, how do you know that? Because
where was that hiding?
Like how is this working? It's like because I read that random fact when I was at like random, class in college, and now I know this political theory and why it exists, right? So it's like it wasn't all useless. It just it came like like different parts of theories like came into play, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
got it. Or like that's why, there's arguments about different ideologies, and like, okay, got it. Playing out in real time. And then with the everyday folks who would come in, well, there were constituents, but
I
then
know. I say it.
some of
I
them were
find myself
lobbyists.
saying it, and people are like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry," but in the political world, it is one of those. It's like when you're using acronyms. I went from the media to the government, and I was using the same acronyms. They're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, common language. We're like, let's come. Yeah. But yeah, I just, a lot of the lobbyists and a lot of the advocacy groups too, you know, they had like their organizing principles and how they organize. And like that was all related back to what I was learning in those classes. So it was like very easy to see, at least for me to understand where people were coming from, because I had studied that in college. So it came into play. Yeah, I enjoyed talking to people about education and workforce development, all these issues I cared about. And I was like, oh, this is fascinating. This is great. I get to like talk to advocates. What a great honor to talk to folks and like try to see how we can help make the world a better place through policy, which is systems work, right? And so if we shift systems, and in my mind, that's another way of helping kids become successful, right? So I think it all relates, like everything I wanted to do and still hope to do in the world is about really how do we create a better world for all kids. And for me personally, I just think as many kids as possible should be scientists, technologists, and engineers, because you get to, that those are the problem solvers. Those are going to be the innovators. And to have those skill sets are just going to be foundational to solving a lot of the climate crisis that we're going through right now, coming up with new vaccines, thinking about the future of education. Like, I don't know, a lot of these folks are going to have to have these STEM skills to be able to enter the arena and talk about these issues and move things forward.
Well, let's just paint. All right, so now let's just like start connecting the dots here. I'm sorry, you didn't mention how many siblings do you have?
I have 3 sisters. There's 4 of us.
There's
Yeah.
4. Ooh, your dad. Ooh, high five to your dad. Wow, 5 women in the house. That's legit.
He's okay. He survived. Everybody is so funny. Everybody says that.
Well,
like,
my dad.
I'm like, yeah, he's good.
My dad was a girl dad too. He goes, it is what it is.
How many sisters were you?
There was only 2 of us. I go, but it's like there was like the 3 of us were enough for me. It was we were a lot of energy. A lot. Like a lot. Like we're creatives. And so my mom's a chef. My sister is a florist and she's a designer. She designed clothes. And I'm a photographer. I'm a talker. I travel around the world. I mean, so we're a lot of high energy, and just excited about the world, excited to show things, excited to create things. And he just was like, he created that platform for us to always like just shine all the time. And people ask him, like, I go, are you not exhausted? Because these 3 women produce so much content. And he's like, it is what it is. They're good. They're good. They're good. I'm good. We're all good. Like, okay.
That's how my dad feels. Yeah. He's like, yeah. It was funny though. People always ask him. They're like, are you okay? He's like, I'm alive, right?
I know. You right? The education that you got from home, intertwining with the education that you got from school, public school, boarding school, seeing how the differences between the 2 educational sources, the educators, the ones that were for education and meaning promoting, making sure that they're leaving their legacy behind, making sure that every child has a little bit of them inside of them, and then going into these different roles, an educator yourself, as well as the government, talking to the constituents, seeing where the problems were, where poking the holes, and then trying to seal those holes. When did your company come to be in this entire process of where you are, where you came from and where you are?
Yeah, sure. So I worked after that. I worked at a couple more nonprofits around workforce development and education issues, STEM, like getting kids jobs and internships. And I ended up working at a startup with a nonprofit startup in Memphis for a little bit with as an Education Pioneers Fellow. So I was helping this small, scrappy nonprofit startup use music to get more kids interested in STEM, but use music to get kids to go to school, to get them just really interested in their education and take ownership over their education tenure. So I loved that environment. Like the founder was great. It was just like, I just literally saw somebody birth something and I got to be part of it. I was like, oh, really? Like I get to be a fellow here? I was like so honored. Like it was great. Like every day you got to see what like he was working on with the co-founders. My job was really to help there was a lot of things going on when it started, but part of my job was to help some portfolio nonprofits. So there was this program and we were supposed to help nonprofits in the area who were musically inclined, help them with like strategy work so they could get access to these funds. So it was a whole bunch of stuff going on, but like that was really cool. I liked it. It was fast paced. No day was the same. Like you got to use your problem solving skills. You didn't have to like talk to 10 different people to get one answer. It was just quick, fast, got to see results, and it was just fun. It was like really fun. So I was like, oh, I guess my entrepreneur skills does come in, like my entrepreneur, like minor did come into play. And yeah, I just really was really grateful for that experience. It was really cool. So then I kind of was like, I think I want to do this entrepreneurial thing, but it needs to have some social impact. And I think nonprofits may be the best way to go. Some people might say for-profits may be the best way to go, but for me, I thought it was a nonprofit because I specifically saw a nonprofit background, and I don't know, I never worked in like a proper corporate place yet. It was all very public service and other nonprofits. So I was like, okay, I understand this world really well, like the third sector, I understand it very well. So if anything, if I'm to try to make a difference in the world, I should like start my own nonprofit. And nobody technically owns a nonprofit because it's for the public, but yeah, so I just started researching. I'm like, what do I do? It has to be, I don't know what I want to do, but I have all these like my lived experiences, all this knowledge. Let's like, what would my nonprofit be? Like, what would it be called? Number one, like I was just thinking of all of these things at one time. So after that education fellowship, I ended up going back to Massachusetts, and I was like living in Lowell at the time, still living in Lowell, but I was living in Lowell. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do this entrepreneur thing. I don't know yet, but let me see. So I like started volunteering for a little bit. I kind of just didn't like see a lot of I know I saw a lot of science programs, engineering programs, some math, not like barely any tech. And at that time, I don't know how my brain works. I'm like, oh my goodness, UMass Lowell is like having all these young people who are like engineers. Like I literally see them everywhere. You know what I mean? Like there's all these startups, like life sciences and tech companies, and small business owners everywhere. Oh my goodness, in the greater region. Oh my goodness, like do I see, like, I hope somebody's, I like, my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I hope people see what I see. I don't know. So anyways, I kept seeing these like patterns. And so I was volunteering, and then I kind of was asking folks, hey, would you like want technology programs? Do you think that's an issue? There's a lack of technology programs. It's just me, or am I like not seeing correctly? Like, because you want to always confirm with your potential customer what might be the problem. And they're like, actually, yeah, we would like, we would like that. I'm like, okay, well, what would that look like for you? So I was like asking educators and other nonprofit decision folks, right, who I knew, like, what would that look like for you? Like, how could we solve this problem? And so like, people started saying different things. I'm like, oh, okay. I think I have a solution. I don't know. So I was like, can I just like talk to some kids, please? I get some focus groups and just ask them some questions. And so that's how I came up with, well, I wouldn't say I came up with it, but I think a lot of people helped me think through like what the tech club would be, which would be, we would partner up with schools, go on site and administer programs, because transportation was a big issue. A lot of the kids didn't have the equipment to practice and play on. teacher quality was really important to parents and the students alike. They wanted to go on field trips. They wanted to showcase the work. Like all these components of our tech club was informed by those meetings.
Yep.
So yeah, and then it was like, okay, I need to like pilot this. I'm like, if the pilot goes well, then I need to get really serious about this. So as the pilot was going on, I was getting like at least incorporation papers. I don't know, maybe I'm getting too technical, but like, get your incorporation papers and then
No, but this is good. This is good in regards of people don't understand the process of because people, especially my mother's adorable. Oh, that Facebook thing, the Facebook, it just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, it didn't just come out of nowhere. Amazon, it just came out of nowhere. I'm like, no, not really. So for people to hear that is very, very important, where you didn't just jump into it. You took a very strategic way of getting to point A to point B, point C. But one of the things that you did that I melted when you just said it was I had a focus group and I talked to the people. Because most people have a focus group and they pay XYZ amount of money and they're just warm bodies. They're not the right people. And you had focus groups to understand what the need was and what the pain points were and how to get around those things. And so understanding your product, so your teachers go in the school, or do they come, is there a brick and mortar that you have? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so for our tech club, our instructors and our volunteers go into the school. There's like a designated place in the school, and they literally bring all the equipment, so all the laptops that we need, or if they're working on robotics, they'll bring all of that materials to the school, administer. There's like a designated place in each school that we can administer a program. So like, it could be in the lunchroom, it could be in the classroom, like whichever place they give us, and then we just teach from there. We explain the concepts to the kids. It depends on what they're working on, but like we like to show the kids, like here's what you're gonna learn. So for example, I guess we could say we're gonna learn how to make your own podcast, which the kids did. We made their own like one episode, but like we're gonna learn how to make a whole podcast. This is what a podcast is. This is what the history is. Okay, before we get to like the final product, you're gonna have to come up with a name. We're gonna show you how we did that, but then we want you to create your own creative process too. But we'll tell you what's worked for us, but you have
But that seems to be like more of an entrepreneur thing, like being a business owner versus technology. So how does that come together?
Oh yeah, so in terms of like the podcast itself, the software. So again, the kids are ages 8 to 14. So the software and the art. So a lot of it we will talk about like, okay, great. Now you're using the software to record your podcast. Somebody created it, right? And then we'll explain to them like, this is how it was created. So like we tried as best as possible to be like, to see the real world applications of what they're using. Like a lot of these people created a lot of these products that you're going to use for, in this particular example, podcasting, which they did. And then we just walk them through the process and until they get to their final product. And we try to just, as we're going along, we try to talk about different careers that's related to what they've been working on. So you can be a podcaster, you can be a graphic designer, because you know how you create your own cover art, right? You can actually like create apps, right? Because for your particular podcast, we use this app, but somebody had to create it. So that's another career path. This is what you need to do to get there. So just to get their minds, since they're still relatively young, ages 8 to 14, they're still relatively young.
What is their so they're learning all this stuff, like, so two questions. One, what is their takeaway? Like, how are they feeling when they're going through this? Number one, how do they find you? There's three questions. How do they find you? And also, how do you get into the schools?
So what is the takeaway? The takeaway is that kids are discovering, and discover and play, which I think kids don't have enough time to do. They only spend, kids only spend 20% of the time in school, 80% out of school. So 80% of is out of school, and that's why we have after school programs. But there needs more time to play and just discover, break things, put them back together, or just like think through things without thinking I have to grade to a test. So what are kids learning? They're learning they're learning self-confidence. They're learning about career paths early. They're trying to figure out what they like and don't like. And they get to have a more confident sense of self, I think, through our programs. Well, that's my hope, is that they're like, oh yeah, if I really like this, I'm going to come back next year and learn something new.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't like that, but I still love the program. I still love the kid. I still love the teachers. I'm going to come back and next year they're teaching just robotics. Maybe I like robotics. So kids just get to provide them all the options, and then they get to figure out what they like and don't like as they're
Yeah.
working their projects. I think that gives kids, yeah, it's just like a self-confidence of like, I know I'm good at this. I like this. I I can plan, I'm on my way. I'm on my way to becoming whoever I want to become.
Mhm.
And I have really good teachers and really good people behind me, which I think everybody needs to be successful. So that's one thing. What are they getting out of it? I just hope that more kids don't leave their geniuses in the grave and they get to explore and get to just be more.
Wait, say that again. I love that. Say it again.
Say what?
I hope they don't leave their what?
Oh, they're geniuses in the grave. And so I think we're
Oh,
just trying to
beautiful.
help them explore that through, tech and other STEM related concepts. So that's what they get. Yeah, and I think that's how we solve the inclusivity and diversity problem, is
Mhm.
just, yeah. So that's one way. There's many ways, but that's what the part that I think kids in tech plays, those early experiences.
The last one was like, how do you get into the schools?
Oh yeah, so well, when we first started, it was like just people who knew us, or like teachers who knew us, who were like, yeah, we need that. Come pilot. Like it was just teachers and principals who also taught very entrepreneurial, right? So those were
Mhm.
like our target market. It was like, okay, each one of the teachers or principals think kind of like how we think, but they're different enough so we can learn from them. And so those were the principals that we targeted first. And
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like, oh, perfect. So like, so we could do a pilot, prove our concept, and we went from there. And then now, how we work with the district, so like we work with Lowell School District,
Mhm.
and they help us identify the schools in which we go into and create more programming. At first, it was very grassroots, like, I know you don't know who we are, but we want to pilot this thing. It's gonna be awesome. Take a risk on us. And yeah, we just had to find the right principal. And once that worked, they told their other principal friends, and then the district got involved. And so now we work in partnership with the school district, and they help us select the schools in which we serve. So yeah, as you can, it's changed over the years. Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it because as a former teacher, it is so important, those after school I was gonna say after school programs. Um, and also just the fact that there's always those kids where there's nothing at home. There's nothing at home to do, except for there's a TV set and they're just sitting in front of the TV set. But to know that there's this additional layer makes it that much better, because they're just like, good, there's hope for me to like to actually change my
Mhm.
narrative of my life. I mean, at a young age, especially at that age, they know. They're like, this is what's happening right now in my life, and this is where it may continue to grow in the negative way, sometimes positive way. But if we are able to like continue to grow our skill sets or learn new things, it's very beneficial. Um,
Mhm.
what was your 2020 like? You are an educator. What you do is in the schools, like with basically you are with the humans. Um, what happened for you when you started hearing the ripple effect of, okay, something's going on? Wait, oh wait, schools are oh, like Governor Baker is shutting down the entire state. Oh wait, it's not just 2 weeks. Oh crap, we're here for the long run. And oh wait, look, we're in the second year. We're in the second year of this. What was your year like, and what did it do to your company?
And now, a message from our sponsor. Since 2017, the Foundation for Business Equity has existed to support Black and Latinx-led companies in reaching their full potential by providing access to critical growth tools that include expanded networks, capital, and markets. To learn more about the Foundation for Business Equity, FBE, visit fbequity.org. And now, back to our guest.
So in terms of the nonprofit, when schools got shut down, we like launched our fund for digital equity. So we called all our corporate partners and foundation partners. We're like, okay, you guys know like 90% of our kids are low income. So they don't have any internet access. So, and they don't have computers that they need for school. So can you help us provide those things. And I know every 3 years, you guys like to switch out equipment in the corporate world. So I know you guys have some stuff left over. So then they were like, yeah, of course. Like we can give you laptops. I'm like, great, awesome. So just calling people and asking for help really.
Yeah.
Then we did a fundraiser for our Fund for Digital Equity, just to make sure parents who needed, or kids who needed access to internet, their parents could get low cost internet for the families. And then we had board member who worked at a telecommunications company at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked him to help, facilitate those low income internet access programs for those families, or give his information out to those families so they could contact him and get involved. So that's what we did. We made sure all our kids had, a laptop and internet, which was really important. And what else happened? So we did that. So we could sustain our programs online.
Yep.
With our Fund for Digital Equity. That was helpful.
And how did that go?
We moved online. We got all the kids who were in our programs to Zoom in, Skype in, we just used video conferencing, and then we taught our classes how we're having a conversation today.
Yeah.
And if they needed,
did they stay engaged? Because we saw how so many kids they didn't show up. I mean, there was a massive drop off of school. Did your kids stay engaged? Because mind you, you're definitely more compelling than most classes. But did you have a drop off of the kids? Was there situations where their Wi-Fi didn't work or something failed them?
Yeah, I think those Wi-Fi issues happen. Nothing's work, especially when there's a lot of people logged in it constantly all the time at one point. Makes it very slow. But I think the kids did come from the most part. We thought about what concepts can we teach the kids that's engaging. It may not be as hands-on, but we did a lot of coding. We did a lot of simulators and simulating how things would happen, a lot of design work. Mm-hmm. So we try to just figure it out, what concepts could the kids still use the computer and be hands-on enough?
Yeah.
So those projects, we were just thinking okay, it has to be hands-on. They have to be moving their mouse. They have to be drawing, or they have to be coding, right? Or they have what can they use? What kind of software can they use to create different things? Mm. So that's how we solved that problem. But then we learned a lot. We learned about what worked and didn't work in real time. We learned if a kid, we learned about kids who's some parents they didn't know how to use their computer at home, right? And their parents didn't know how to. So we had some volunteers who were really nice and would go to kids' house and help them teach their parents how to use the computer. So, it was a learning experience. But I think you just adapt, and we definitely did try our best, because we did all the essential things to get kids online. We call and just make sure that they were doing okay. If they needed resources around, especially internet access, we say, here are your providers, here's where you call, and just to make sure your internet's working. And then, with time, I think the schools, a lot of our kids had 2 computers, which is fine. I think kids should have as many computers as possible. But then, school districts were issuing out their own laptops. Yep. So they had 2, they're I have 2 laptops now. I'm great, take care of both of them. I think we just adapted. We just found subjects that we could teach online that we thought were engaging. That's what we did.
So let's just switch a little bit where you took care of the kids. Your team went to the kids' houses. How did you take care of yourself? And also, you're in charge of a team of very highly educated individuals that are trying to take care of kids. So how did you take care of you and the team during this time that felt like forever? And again, we're still in it, but it literally continued to continue. And where did you have to deal with fatigue? Did you have any drop off of your teachers at that time?
I think before COVID or after COVID, teacher fatigue is real. that's why I always respect educators, because I'm like, you guys are really doing God's work. So I think what I would do is I just would encourage people to, like, when you're not working, don't work. Just take a break for yourself. Or like, I would encourage people just to take at least like take Fridays off and just don't worry. Just like you're done for the week, like go home and rest. So, and I also had to model that behavior myself. So I was like, okay, if you like, I have to model it so people really believe me. So I'm like, I'm logging off now. Like I'm not taking emails, right? And so when I did that consistently, people would follow suit. So I think it's just setting the tone sometimes of like what you think should happen. So then people follow suit. And so I just told people to take time off when they needed it, told people to like be helpful towards others, which I think teachers do really well anyways. They're always like naturally team players. So it's like, oh, do you need help with this? Oh, I can, or our instructors, oh, I can cover that class. Okay, well, you can cover this class for me. Well, like we're working together to kind of make it happen. And our volunteers were great too. So I think it's just a lot of like me doing my internal work, or still doing my internal work, because it's nowadays is perfect, because as entrepreneurs you work a lot. But at the same time,
it's not like we work a lot, we work all the time.
Yeah. But like you also need to rest. So I was like, okay, I need to like plan rest. So I'm not going to check my emails on weekends. Maybe I'm going to take a half a day today, and like not beat myself up.
Did you say you're going to take a half a day today? Because I was going to say it's later in the day, so the day's done. So.
No. Like, it was reference to what happened.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes, today, or like, just create a culture of care. Check in on your colleagues, see how they're doing. I think that's also self-care for yourself, but for others. Yeah, just like team time. So a lot of things. Yeah.
Nice. I was gonna say to you in regards to, so this is like this is where I pile on questions, so that I go quiet and let you go. What does your family think about the business? Number one. Number two, in regards to if you're going to give any advice, words of advice to individuals that are looking to start something. They're in this job, because I mean, as you probably saw, in April, 4.4 million people left their good paying jobs. They had enough. They have left their good paying jobs, and they're looking and they're discovering what to do next. So what advice would you give to someone that's looking to start something? Because you clearly could have kept on working where you were working, and you decided it was time to create something. What advice would you give to them? And the last one in regards to that is that, where does this industry go? Like, them seem forward thinking, like where do we go from here? Because we're still having, no matter how many classes I see, no matter how many clubs I see the struggle of getting young kids or young women to get involved in this and stick with it. So where do we go from here? So family, advice in regards of business, and where does the industry go overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think my parents, I'd say that they are proud of me. I mean, I'm proud of them. I don't know, they're like, you're a risk taker, so this makes sense. I don't know, like, I don't know, that's what they say. But yeah, they think they see a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears. So yeah, I would say that they're proud of me. Yeah, I think so. And I'm proud of myself every day, I learn something new every day about myself through this. So, but I love what I do. I wake up and I say, yeah, I do really believe in what I'm saying. And I see the kids, and I see like the kids smile, or like their eyes light up, or they make a connection. Their brain is like, you can see them thinking. You're like, okay, great. That's one step towards, that's one small step towards having more kids take this pathway seriously. In terms of the nonprofit sector and education nonprofits, or just in general, just like for-profit jobs, a lot of people have left nonprofit jobs too, because nonprofit jobs are mission critical jobs, but the pay before COVID, that was an issue. And I think during COVID, it could be an issue, and after COVID probably will be an issue. I think people are starting to understand that part of doing the good work is to pay people to do that good work. And so I think a lot of supporters of nonprofits, whether it's everyday folks or institutional partners and funders, are starting to realize that, and they're starting to say, okay, well, you can get unrestricted funds to pay people to do the work. Like, so I think those conversations have been happening on a policy level. So that's shifting. But yeah, I could see why people want to leave, right? Because they may not feel fulfilled at work. They may not be getting the benefits that they're looking for. But I do say for the nonprofit sector, at least for the nonprofit sector, I think a lot of the issues when people leave is that the pay may not be, sustainable for a long term. So I think, like I said, institutional partners are starting to funders are really starting to understand that and, aid nonprofit founders and executive directors like myself to be able to hire good talent to do the work too, because it's really important. We definitely fill the gap that government can't always fill. So I guess this is also a good time for companies to think about their policies, right? I think maybe there's some silver linings. That's how I'm looking at it. Maybe think about how what have you learned if people have exited your staff? What have you learned? What kind of policies can you put in place? What kind of structures can you put in place to make sure people are happier, are actually more productive and feel like they're doing meaningful work? This is for-profit or nonprofit. So I think this is a great time for business owners to think about, or just nonprofit execs to think about, okay, what kind of policies can I make? What kind of culture can I create around work so people feel fulfilled and not burnt out?
And what advice would you give? And I'm so sorry. And what advice would you give to an individual looking to start their own?
I would just say go for it. Why not? Like people will tell you, oh yeah, no. Well, if you have the conviction and you have the right intentions around it, go for it. Try. And if you find out that it doesn't work for you, that you get to make that decision when you want to quote unquote quit, and you can find something else to do. Yeah, if you have an idea, go for it.
Well, all right. I'm going to ask you, what were your highs and what were your lows of starting your own business?
The nonprofit. The highs. Well, I guess I don't know. Entrepreneurship is it's ebbs and flows. I don't know. I guess there's a lot of things. Like I see whenever I go see a class or teach a class, our instructors, I love seeing the kids' faces, excitement. I like that some of our kids are getting older and they're almost to high school and they're still engaged in science and tech, which is great. I'm really grateful for our institutional funders and board of directors and all those folks who came together around a vision. So really great, and it's great to create a community around a vision of really getting as many kids as possible interested in STEM, in technology, and yeah, that's what I'm really grateful for. I think the lows is any business when you're trying to start off, you're like, okay, who's going to be my first seed funder? I don't know if that's the same for-profit sector, but at least for me, I was like, I need one of these foundations to bite at the apple, right? Yep. And so, who's going to take a risk on me? So I had to find that risk taker. I'm like, which one of you guys are the risk taker? I don't know. And they didn't know me from anywhere either, and I didn't know them, and just building authentic relationships with them. I wasn't really low. It's just I guess just learning how to do that for me. It's how do I contact this person that I just researched? So it was really a low. I have to say it was just growing pains, right? You just learn. I was learning a lot. But it was painstaking because I was going through databases, and I was okay, this is I have 20 people on this list and I got to call them, who are you? Some of them might hang up on you, some of them might not return a call. So it's just trying to get that meeting. And once I got that meeting, it's oh, okay, well, your pilot went really well. I'm going to introduce you to my other, funder friend. I'm okay, great. So just persistence, I guess, is the name of the game. Even through those low points, right? But that was probably starting off and not knowing what I was doing at all. I just was trying to figure it out as I went. But yeah, I just didn't know how to do that really well. And I learned as I was going along. So
How many years have you been in business?
We officially incorporated in July 2016. So, oh my God, so about 5 years. Yeah. So it's been great. I've learned a lot, grown a lot. And yeah, I don't know, every business you just go through the ebbs and flows. But I always try to for the most part, it's been a really wonderful journey and very grateful for everybody who's taking the meetings with me. Just build relationships with folks. Forever grateful for that. And so people just finding people who understand your vision. Mm-hmm. And also what's really has been really great is just being in community with them. So
who's your best client?
The kids, of course. The kids are kids. Love them. They make everything work. But also the principals, we've been really lucky to have really good school leadership partners as well, who also really get it and understand and want those type of programs for their kids. So I think nobody beats the kids because ultimately everything we do is for them. Mm-hmm. But also our principals, they allow us to serve their kids every day. So we're really grateful for them as well.
Oh, this has been great. I mean, these conversations make me happy because again, I would have never known you existed. I would have never known you do what you do. I would have never known that we have carbon copy parts of our lives, which is really good, which makes me very, very happy, and it makes me smile. But an hour has gone by, and
yes,
I know it goes by fast. It goes by fast because my biggest thing is it's a conversation, but then I'm I go, I don't want to take too much time of your day, but then I just keep going. So I always say this is not the last time. I will always bring you back in because even individuals that I spoke to in April 2020, that's when I started this podcast. I'm bringing back just because I want to see how was the year, or if things are in the news. You guys are the best resources of understanding your industry more than anybody else. So why sit down and speak to someone that's in I read about it versus that you guys are in it. You're living and breathing it right now. So I want you to come back more and more so that way people understand that you are the people in the neighborhood, but you're also the individuals you're the experts. You're the experts in the neighborhood, and we want to hear more and more from you. So one, I thank you so very much for being here, but we do have two more questions to answer. And I always end with this. So if you had a personal ask and a professional ask, and every single time you talk to me, I will always ask. So because I never know what your day is like, I don't know what your week's like. So your ask will always be different. But if you had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now, what would you ask?
I guess my professional ask is, are you looking to volunteer? Because we need volunteers at Kids in Tech to help out by hosting field trips, becoming guest speakers, telling kids about your own personal stories. And these are some ways you can make an impact. So if those sound really great to you, visit us at www.kidsintech.org. That's my personal ask. I would love to get like-minded people involved because it takes everyone to really push our mission and make sure that more kids stay in STEM and persist. And so that would be my professional ask. My personal ask, that's a really good one. I guess my personal ask, that's a good one. I'm always looking for actually books. Any thought leadership books that have changed your life, email me. I'm always very curious about what books change your thinking about how you operate yourself. And so you can show up in your greatest capacity to lead. So if anybody has any books that have really changed their leadership style or their leadership thinking, please, I'm always trying to learn because I think that's also part of the self-care thing that we talked about before. You have to master yourself or learn more about yourself so you can give that to others. So yes, that would be my personal ask. And if anybody's into art, I love art. So I want to learn more about contemporary art or just if you have any books on art history, let me know. That's another thing too, because I'm really curious about the art world and just how that works and So those are my two asks.
I do love how you're the personal one's hard. No, it wasn't. You just flew it out of your mouth. It was perfect. It was lovely. I am going to say, so my two books, which I'm sure you've probably read them both, Malcolm Gladwell's Outlier, because I think that one for me they didn't change neither one of these books changed my life. They solidify what I do and why I do it. So Outlier, because it really teaches you why you stand out or why you should stand out. And then Chandra Rhimes, The Year of Yes. She got called out by her sisters because she said no to everything. And she took one full year of saying yes to everything. And these opportunities came out of nowhere. So those are my two favorite books. I have many books, but these are the two that I will literally promote these two books to the day that I die, because it really speaks volume to what people are not doing. They're saying no to everything. And they are like literally not, they're just like wallpaper. Stand out in the wallpaper. Be that flower that's just like, oh, look at the wallpaper. Look, he's standing out. So those are two things I do love. And then in regards to the volunteering, we'll talk, because I would love to volunteer. That's my biggest thing, where I'm a big fan of volunteering, especially being as a former teacher. We could definitely talk.
Yeah, please. Thank you so much, Jodi. And thank you.
Oh my God,
recommendations too.
It was so wonderful hearing from you, and just as you're talking, I could see your brain going, and it's just like, it was colorful. Your brain and the way that you were, the thought process of like what was coming out of your mouth, it was so colorful. It wasn't dry. It was just like really just like the passion is so clear in what you do and why you do it and for who you do it. And I could see why people gravitate towards you, where sure, here's our check here, like we want to get involved. I could see that, because you love, it's very clear that you love what you do, and you're helping them, and you're making sure that so many young people of all ages, of all genders, are just finding their space in the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Until next time, my friend.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.